Easy E, how are we?
Shawnee, I'm doing well. I found a good coach.
You found a good coach?
Yeah, I signed up to your app again. No, yeah, no, it's good. I have to say, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Do you know when you go to a gym and they're like, "Listen,
Right.
I'm into trying to do triathlon, but I also want to be skinny, and I also want to do backyard ultras, and I also want to," and I'm like, "Give me something that makes me strong but functional." Right, come on, we do the bench press. We do the deadlift. But no, I have to say, I'm enjoying the workouts that you've given me. I'm not trying to promote you here or anything. I'm just saying it's good to look around and something we've talked about, and it's good to look around for good coaching. It's good to look around for stuff that suits your goals, and that's one of the bits of advice we can look forward to into February and our next episode that we're looking at. But also, Sean,
Mhm.
I am starting to make friends. Guess what I have found here? It's not in Ireland, so it's going to be
The,
tough.
the sun.
No,
Warm
yeah,
weather.
yeah, I found that. Definitely found that. And I tell you what, it adds something to the workout. An Adidas running club.
An Adidas running club.
Oh man, I showed up in my Nikes and I felt bad. I showed up in a Saw Doctors t-shirt and my blue Nike runners. Yeah, so there's apparently all over the world there's these Adidas running clubs. And I
Right.
went down and of course I thought Thursday, oh, this would be nice. Interval night, mother of God. Of
What were the
all
intervals?
Of all the nights, 150 meter, five of them, but they were 90% efforts. Because you know the way we usually do 400s, and you're always kind of half holding, but like I was
You have
giving
to.
it 90%. And I was kind of glad because we talked about you never sprint in your 30s and all that kind of stuff. Well, I did 15 times tonight. So it's 150, 80, and 50. And you do five, 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 and then you're done. You get your red. A lot of people were jogging back because your rest was on the way back. I walked every single one of them because I was going max effort, so I needed it. I was breathing heavy, but I
Was
have to
all
say,
starting at different times then? Or were you was as soon as you hit the start, you went again like kind of like
yeah. It was
a
just
whistle
you just
test?
remembered you're on lap one. Now there was people that were giving it socks, jogging it back like fit people, like. But I was giving
Yeah.
it walking it back because I wanted to give it socks for the next 15. But
Otherwise, it wasn't happening. Yeah, of course, of
yeah,
course.
So it was absolutely brilliant. So welcoming and coached and just really good. Do you know what I liked about it? The people showed up late. And the coach was like, "Boy, warm up." And I was like, "Yes, I like this." Because there was no, "Oh yeah, you're like just join in." And it was professional, it was really good, and they all look good in their Adidas gear. So Adidas, if you're listening, come on to the podcast.
There we
Give
go.
me €1 million. Yeah, so I think I found my new thing. But enough about me. What have we got this week?
Well, before we get into this week, Eric, I'm gonna put a bit of pressure on myself because do you know
Oh,
that meme it's always on TikTok and Instagram, it's like I'm doing my part. Well, I'm doing my part, and I'm doing my part. And then
oh,
and I was like, I ain't doing effing shit. Well, I potentially have a very, very big weekend coming up in a couple of weeks.
oh.
So on the Saturday, I've got the Dundee 50K. And they're doing their part. They're setting up that big race. And I keep hearing how great the atmosphere and stuff is there for it. And Saturday night recovery. And then Sunday is Super Bowl night. Now, I could be jinxing this by the time this podcast comes out and my 49ers don't make the Super Bowl. But the way it's looking is I'm going to do my first 50K proper race on Saturday. And then Sunday, I'm going to watch my 49ers win the Super Bowl. They're in the last four. Well, as this podcast drops, they could either be in the Super Bowl or knocked out. Like I said, jinxing it. But then I realized when it comes to my part doing the training for all this, I ain't doing effing shit right now. I just, it's just, I keep putting stuff off. Like, I'll do that now. Like last week, we've got a lot of great episodes of podcasts coming up and we recorded a lot of guests for that. And I'm like, I'll record this and go out and like, it's too dark. I'll do it in the morning. And the morning leads to the next. And I'm only getting, a couple of odd K. So the reason I'm saying this, because the Thursday when we record this, I'm hoping by the time this podcast drops, I will have a couple of long runs in me over the weekend because otherwise, with 2 weeks to go, it ain't under 5 hours ain't happening, son.
Well, do you know what works for me?
What's that?
When and
Run
it goes back to, yeah, running helps.
them.
Well, that too often, but I'm getting there. But a lot of times, what I have found was making a contract with someone who's important to you.
Mm.
So if you're setting a new goal or you want to get a bit of accountability, but you haven't got a coach, you haven't got a club or someone shouting at you, I have found making a contract or a handshake or a pinky promise, whatever you want to call it, with someone who you can't let down. So for me, a lot of the times it's you. A lot of the times it's Katie. I'd be like, I am going to run this pinky promise. And whatever it is about that little pinky,
Has to be
so
done.
it is a trick. It is a trick. So are you going to pinky promise me in front of 2,500 listeners?
I will pinky promise you in front of 2,500 listeners. Well, but I run Thursday evening now. I have to go for some sort of a run after this. Although by the time I finish up, wrap up the intro of this podcast, I'll probably hear, "Oh, dinner's done." I'm like, "Oh no, I'll do it
We will
tomorrow."
all be watching your Strava with great interest.
So I
And
need to get a run. I need to run tomorrow. I've got more time to run. Saturday, I'll probably have a training session. I have a long day in work. But Sunday, you see, Sunday's a tricky one because, like I said, I've said football, and this what messed me up last week. They don't play till 11:30 at night. It starts, and I'm in work at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, the old Sean in his 20s was able to, stay up, watch it, get an hour or two sleep, and go to work the next day and be grand. This Sean, who's approaching 36, right around the corner, can't do that anymore. So to get this done, I have to go for a long run early Sunday morning, and then get my sleep in the afternoon nap, and then to watch because I can't not watch. I'm going to walk into work Monday morning, and then someone's going to tell me, "Hey, the 49ers in the Super Bowl." I'm putting it out there so it happens. And then, I won't last the day, and I'm working Monday night and all as well. So I'm going to have to get that nap in, but that nap won't happen. I won't be able to sleep unless I go for a long run Sunday morning. So I need at least 25 plus K in me Sunday morning. And then, maybe something even Sunday evening if I wake up from that nap, because the folks with a treadmill, try the treadmill actually really quick. I did, we've had a few people in the podcast talking about, and of course, the name escapes me now, where you add a little bit every time, those increased runs, the increased kind of intervals. So I was like, I can't remember what way I started. It was like maybe 9 or 10 kilometers an hour on the treadmill. And every 5 minutes, I was like 10.5 and 11 and 11.5. And the watch was like, "You're running a 4:15 pace." I'm like, "No, I'm not." Out of the 0.5, "You're running a 4:18 pace." How am I getting slower on the treadmills after going up? It makes no sense. I got like 14. I barely held. I don't even think I finished that. And I'm like, "Oh, I have a lot to catch up on here." So that's going to be my new thing on the treadmill if I remember back home with the folks. But I need to get a long run in. Before I get that long run in, I need to introduce this week's guest in the Any Given Run Day podcast. We have Alicia from at She Summits Trail Running. And this is a great podcast, not because, once again, you pick on my navigational skills in the podcast, but it's just a great for introduction into different trail runs and great events they have going on in the Dublin Wicklow Mountains area.
Yeah, and not only that, it's great for the ladies who are looking to find a group. Like, I even know at home, like, depending on the work schedule and stuff, like, Kate likes to go for a hike, but I'm always not around. And then by the time it comes around, I want to run 21K in Clane and not go for a hike. So if people have that interest and want to meet people and want to get out and about and really get an introduction into it and take it to that level beyond, it's absolutely brilliant. And this episode pretty much describes all of that and describes how you get into it and what you're going to need for it. And for those who are looking to sign up to any events in the Wicklow Way or any of them, they do recce routes as well. They'll guide people. They'll do daytime recce's on the weekends and stuff. So this one really has it all. It's a fantastic episode, and we're always biased, but it is great listen, and it's something I never thought of beforehand. So I hope people really enjoy it this week.
And with that said, this is this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. Let's go. So this week on the Any Given Run Day podcast, we have the leader of She Summits and the Summer Supports Program, who support women and people from different backgrounds in trail running. They do guided trail runs in Dublin and the Wicklow Mountains, along with race route recce's for the Art O'Neill and the Wicklow Round. Alicia, welcome to the Any Given Run Day podcast. How are we getting on?
Thanks, Sean. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you. And thanks, Eric.
No, don't thank me, because wait until you have to bring Sean around the mountains. You won't be thanking anyone. It'd be like bringing a toddler for a walk.
I, I had a look at your website, and we'll have it in the show notes. I saw you do beginner recce's, and you do all different levels, from half marathons up into like unbelievable trail runs. We'll get into that Wicklow Round, which is over 100K. Alicia, you started this in 2019. How? Why?
Yeah, so I suppose I was running the trails and I just noticed there weren't as many women as men involved in trail running.
Hmm.
I'm also lucky enough to live in West Wicklow on the foothills of the Wicklow Mountains near Lugnaquilla and all that. So I had trails right on my doorstep. So I didn't have that barrier to access, but I suppose it was really like a niggle for me that I didn't see as many women out there.
Hmm.
And I didn't find myself a particularly like a super athlete or anything, but I just enjoyed doing the runs and I wanted other women to get to enjoy it as well.
Hmm.
So I saw that Girls on Hills in Scotland had some events up on social media, and I was just like, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do here.
Hmm.
And I had a network of friends in mountain running, so I just reached out to them and said, look, I'm thinking of starting this. Will you help me? Will you lead with me? And we did our first run. It was myself and Karina Jonina, and we led the run up the Ticknock Forest. In March of 2019. And we've been going ever since, really just providing like the recce's, beginner runs, entry level kind of experiences for people, really social, supportive, that type of environment.
Unbelievable. I've seen on your website, you've over 200 events so far over the last 4 years. Considering like one or two of those years are shut down, that is pretty class. Like, what is when you bring someone in for a beginner, what do they expect coming in, and how do you kind of ease them into trail running?
Yeah, so we have kind of different two beginner levels. So one is absolute beginner and one is
Sure.
beginner.
He's not
So
wrong.
there's that. So we have both. And basically I say if you can walk, you can do it.
Hmm.
Because trail running is a hybrid of walking, hiking, and running. So on our absolute beginners, we hike a lot and do easy, relaxed jogging. So once you can jog a bit, then you can do it. And then just a pair of trail runners. That's the other thing you need for the first run: a coat, hat, gloves, and just an interest in it. We do a lot of pausing as we go, enjoying the views, chatting. I think that helps. Like, it's not a training session. It's not a race.
Hmm.
So when we're there, we're just like running together and sharing the experience.
That is class. You've got another side to you though as well, because like you're signed up this year for the Seven Sisters Skyline as well. So I know you're talking about beginners and easing in, but you do have like a race streak, and you've got the 7 Series Skyline, which you talked about before in the podcast, but you're also doing this other one called, I'm gonna butcher the name of it, Limone Skyrace.
Oh yeah. The Limone Skyrace. Yeah. I did it last year as well. I actually did them both last year as well. And yeah, I just love like that mountain kind of 20 to 30K mountain distance, really technical. I love that myself. But the thing is, I think where I guess I kind of empathize. I don't know if that's the right word, but I can understand people that are starting from the beginning,
Mm.
because I wasn't born a trail runner. I just
Yeah.
happened to live in this place that had trails and I wanted to go out on them. And I was lucky enough to live close to them and to be able to do navigation courses and all that stuff. I wasn't born any better than anyone else. I was just kind of lucky. And I have finished races last. I
Yeah.
might do hard stuff. That doesn't mean that I'm finishing at the front. So I understand what it means. Like when you see another hill in front, you like, oh God, what's this? And like, what are we doing now? I can understand that, the difficulty in like the challenge of what's coming ahead on the trails.
But this race is not just another hill. Like you're literally like not you literally, but from the Google images I've seen on it, there's people on their hands and knees. Like it's that vertical. It's over 2K vertical going up over a 22K race, which sounds bananas. And then to go from that to introduce to people, like it's such a huge scope trail running that it could be get lost, get started.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing is, like going up that 2K in Limone at the start, it's all hiking.
Hmm.
So, like, I mean, I don't know, maybe some people right at the front, they're running, but you're just hiking as fast as you can. You're trying not to melt with the sun, and you turn around, enjoy the view for a second, and keep going. So it's really, I don't know, I guess, yeah, I enjoy both. I
Hmm.
enjoy pushing myself in that technical stuff, and then I enjoy supporting other people um getting out to experience the trails, and to, even if that achievement is just running for 2 minutes, great, awesome. That doesn't mean it's any less than heading up that steep hill. It's all depends on the situation and the person, and I love it. I love it all.
When you are looking back at how it started for you, did it start in 2019 or have you been doing it for many years now?
Well, I've been running for about 15 years. So I guess I always just like loved moving. I was a dancer before that. I was a choreographer, performing, and I was big into like different sports as a kid. And my parents were both into sports, so I was always like being active was very normal for our family. To see my dad going out for a run, my mom heading out for a walk or coaching. So I haven't always been competing and running, but I've always been doing something active.
Well, if you thought Sean's navigation was bad, you should see his dancing. So
Yeah, I don't know which is worse.
so how does the Wicklow Hills and the trails compare to all these places you've seen?
Um, I suppose they're just different, they're different. Like Donegal and Wicklow, I think are quite similar, except you're going to get different views. I mean, Donegal, the views are unreal, but the terrain underfoot is really quite similar. There's a lot of muck, a lot of grassy, mucky trails. Limone is different. Okay, spectacular views, unbelievable. But it's also more stony, technical trails, no muck, in fact, at all. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
different. Your feet kind of get hot because you're used to being wet and mucky. So I actually, for that race, I did some heat training to prepare for it because it was quite warm. So yeah, that was a help. So it's just kind of knowing where I'm going, what I'm doing, and then figuring out what I need to do to perform the best that I can. Even though I'm not going to be getting a podium, I still want to do the best that I can do.
Was it always trail running from the get-go, or did you get into road running and then find a trail race and then you're like, oh, this is a lot more interesting than hitting the same pavements over and over again?
Yeah, so it was road running. At first, I was living in New York with my husband and our oldest son, and I happened to have like a running buggy. So I saw the New Yorkers like going around with their cats and buggies and all running. So I'm like, let's run a bit, let's run a bit. But I didn't really enjoy running. I found it too hard. Like I'd be like hyperventilating. But when I started, I could run for a minute just around like the local park. And then we came back to Ireland. I just ran the country roads with my son in the buggy. And then because like right next to my house, there's a forest. I'm 5K from Log. So I have access to the trail. So I just started to go up them bit by bit, jogging, hiking. And it wasn't necessarily a race. It was more I just saw them and wanted to go and like explore on them.
Hmm. And what was your first trail run event then?
Yeah, my first trail run event. Um, the first one that comes into my mind, I'm not sure if it was the absolute first, was IMRA's Our Hello Ultra. Yeah.
One of your first was straight into an ultra.
Yeah, yeah. So it was 3 loops.
Welcome on this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that was my first. So it was 3 loops over there, and I really enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure I came in joint last with another runner, but I also happened to be second woman, so that was cool. So I was representing there, and I had a great time. It was hard, but I guess I had kind of built up. The kind of the distance, and I would just do a lot of like long, easy runs. I loved doing that. I had 2 young kids at the time, plus the older lad. And I just loved just heading out with my friends or on my own and just like getting space away from the kids and all.
And IMRA, are they, sorry, quick question on IMRA, obviously Irish Mountain Running Association. We've heard them mentioned on this podcast a couple of times. Do you work with them as part of your trails? Would you recommend getting involved with them? And what's the best way to get involved with them if they are good?
Yeah, I would absolutely. Irish Mountain Running Association. Check out their website, IMRA.ie. So they have annual membership and then races throughout the year in all different locations around Ireland. And yeah, so I would go to the races, encourage people to go to the races. And I suppose our Wicklow Round route recce, the Wicklow Round is an IMRA challenge. So we're like that's on that Wicklow Round route, and I guess I actually attempted the Wicklow Round before, so that's how kind of that came about too. Probably a year or two maybe after that race. So yeah, I'd say everyone get involved if you're interested in racing and that type of thing. And it's a volunteer-led organization, so if you're a little like, oh, I don't know about racing, but I want to be involved, you can go and volunteer at races and just kind of get the feel for the whole thing.
I'm voting to push on as a volunteer navigational for these races.
So we'll get it. Speaking of navigation, if someone was to do the Wicklow Round 100k event, 26 peaks, 6,000 meters in height, I haven't looked into it that much. How much I see you do different recce's and stuff like that for it. How much navigation is involved in this?
Oh, a lot. Yeah, a lot. So it depends. Like if you're good, what we're doing is we're going out and doing the recce just to give people experience on the route. So when we go out, we can use map and compass, GPS devices, all that. But if you decide to toe the line and go to Gate and do the IMRA challenge, then you can't use any GPS devices, only map and compass. And you have to do the whole route in under 24 hours. For She Summits, we're actually going to do the route in a relay in June. So for that, it's not an IMRA event, but we have their blessing to do it. And when we go out, we're going to all do legs of the route, and we're going to use GPS in that. But even with GPS, you still need to know how to navigate, because like we all know, and like I heard your podcast with Kira, you know, like we've all gone in circles. It happens, you know? And if anyone said they have never got lost, then they're not telling the truth, because it happens. And then you learn. It's great. Like, there's no shame in it. But yeah, there's a lot of navigation on that. And there's quite a bit of that, you know, most of it that isn't marked or anything. You're taking little sheep tracks, and it also depends on what time of year you go. The heather can be really high, the ferns can be high. So there's a lot of recceing. And I mean, some people could recce for like a couple of years before they even toe the start line for the challenge. Yeah.
There must be a lot of markers then if it's a 100k round to hit different parts all the way through. Like I know with Arthur Neal, for example, you've got your 2 checkpoints and obviously the cross as well, where you get your wristband. But for that full circle of 100k, I'm assuming like you can't just, maybe I'm sounding like an idiot here, cut through 20k somehow or something like that. There has to be some sort of thing to it, no?
Yeah. So for that challenge, you do it like if you wanted to head out and do it tomorrow, you could just let IMRA know you're going to do it. Well, tomorrow might be too soon because they need to get you a tracker. So it's not necessarily like a race date where they'd have it all mapped out. And then you would have to hit the different peaks. It doesn't matter which way you go to get to each of the peaks, but they could see on the tracker that you've hit all the peaks.
All 26.
Yeah.
You have 26 markers on it. Now it makes more sense to me.
Yeah,
I'm with you
yeah.
now. I'm with you now.
Yeah.
That part of the thing I was missing.
Did you ever see those videos on Instagram where they put a camera on a Labrador and they just start off running? I want to put a camera on Sean. I just want to, I reckon that's what it'd look like. You just see these manic guys running around.
I'd eventually get to a peak and it's like, Sean, there's 26 and you somehow hit a 27th different one and not any of the other 26. I'm like, whoops.
Absolutely brilliant. It sounds like a good race. And then if we wanted to do that, say you were a listener of this podcast, which means you're probably going to do the event this year, Sean. How do they get involved with you, Alicia? What's the first steps to saying, look, I have an interest. I want to go with you. I want to get involved in the sport. What's the next steps?
What's the next steps? I think just go. I mean, just come on a beginner run, or if you're interested in the Wicklow Round, come on one of the recce's and just get in touch. I mean, it also depends on what distance you're at, and if someone's never done any trail running before, you might, they should try to do a bit of that first. Now, all our guided trail runs are for women, but the Wicklow Round recce we've opened up to all genders. So, but there's other clubs, there's other opportunities. You can go to IMRA race, and there's other trail running clubs all around that you could get involved with, just to, get used to the terrain. And the Wicklow Round terrain is particularly challenging because obviously it takes in such a distance, and there's a lot of muck and heather, all that, more so than your average, Quilcher Forest trail run.
Moving slightly away from the Wicklow Round at this stage, because I've had a decision in my head. For people that would be interested in, let's say they're not near Dublin or Wicklow, to go out guided tours yourself or ski summits, are there other events around the country where you're like, if you want to get into trail running, not necessarily clubs and stuff, or maybe there is races in Dublin Wicklow you'd recommend as well, with the exception of a Wicklow Round, and let's just say Arthur Neil. What other trail run events would you recommend people, or would you just say just go on the IMRA website and just see what they have around the country? Is there any that stand out as like, that's a great first trail run event to do?
I would say the IMRA ones, and they do have different things happening around the country. Gale Force does some great stuff as well, so you could check them out. I love the Seven Sisters race up in Donegal, but they're not so much for beginners. Although this year, Union does have a 16K race, so it takes in, I think, Aragall and Little Aragall. So that's a little bit more. It's not too crazy, but I would say, check out IMRA to start, and then just kind of put your feelers out and chat to other people that are doing it. If you go to an IMRA race, you'll find out more about what's going on around the country.
That seems to be a big difference with trail running and road running. You walk up to a 5K event or a 10K event, you might know anyone there. There's not that much conversation in the starting line. It's more like look at the watch, ready to go, and then bang, away you go. And like the only time you stop is for a quick drink of water, or unless something's gone wrong, you pull up with an injury. But trail runs completely different. Like I've been to a few like Run the Line. I've done a few like quests and stuff like that, and there's a buzz. You're all chatting and stuff. And during the races, it's one of those races where like you can eat along the way, which appeals to all of us. It's like, what do you mean you can have whatever you want while you're running and go for a stroll and off you go again? Like there's something like obviously there's running in the title with trail running and road running, but apart from that, they're almost two completely different sports in my view.
Yeah, I think so. I don't do many road races at all, but so I don't really know that atmosphere, but I do know about, on the trails, like even if you're racing, you glance up and you get this view, and it's pretty amazing. And it's also like the shared experience of survival that happens a lot. You know, that like it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing running up here and running around here? Like, it's kind of mad. And then you get to the finish and you're just processing the whole thing. And you help each other out. You know, if someone needs a bit of food or someone doesn't know which way to go. I think it's pretty common, like, for trail runners to support each other and chat and all that. But it's really the environment. Of course, like, we want to all do it the best we can, but we all want to, like, enjoy, I think, the environment. We're all interested in that, or we would stick to the roads. But it you know, on a lot of routes, you have no time to get bored. You turn a corner, there's another view. The terrain changes. You know, someone's passing you. You see, can you keep up with them for a bit? Like, there's a lot going on the trails that keeps it interesting and exciting.
So if someone signs up to do a Ski Summits, they come down to you. All they need is trail runners, or is there any particular gear you recommend for them, or does that depend on type of year?
Now, I've walked into the Decathlon for trail runners and I came out with a canoe and a tent. So how do they...
Yeah, bring your canoe.
How do you like, you know, bare minimum checklist what is required? Because that place is dangerous. I'm still learning how to do archery.
Yeah. No, I would say trail runners, coat, hat, gloves. Start with that. Keep it simple. And if we're going out, you know, just for like an hour and a half, I'd also recommend, like, bringing a bar, a bit of water. Yeah, even in the summer, I'd still ask people to bring, like, a hat and gloves, because if something happens on the hill and we need to wait, someone twists an ankle or that, you know, it's always good to have those bits. Then, you know, in the winter and we're going to kind of more remote places, then the kit list gets longer.
Yeah, it does, and it's something we've spoke about. We mentioned about even in the previous podcast about the dressing up and dressing down element. It's better to have thinner and more layers than to have the big heavy puffy jacket as you're setting off from the base of the mountain. It'll make a big difference. Don't bring the canoe, don't bring the tent, or maybe the tent. You could do an overnight.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something I've always wanted to get into. There is a couple of hills nearby, but there's nothing really here. But it's definitely true. My experience is it was a different experience than a social element, but it's Sean was in his own in the field, so unless he was talking to the sheep, it was a very different social experience for him.
I had a lot of conversations. They didn't talk back to me.
But I suppose for anyone who is looking for that something different, that feeling of being alive, that why are we up a mountain when it's cold? Why are we looking at this late? You know, and this is amazing. I can't believe I'm here kind of feelings with people, getting to know people, different backgrounds. It is one of the best, most inclusive sports. And it doesn't take long to build hiking fitness. And those who are worried, and I know we went into your background and you're doing a little bit of training, like, honestly, just going walking in the evening around, using a little stepping up and stepping down on a step, just working different muscles. And you will, if you're with a hiking group, Alicia, you have way more experience than me, but even with a hiking group, taking those couple of minutes to stop, turn, enjoy the view, have a stretch, that will buy you another 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes before you have to do that again. And you can always kind of keep pace with a group, whatever, right?
Yeah. And I think spending as much time as you can walking and going out for walks on the trail, so you get used to the terrain and, like, ascending and descending. I find a lot of people who join us that come from hiking backgrounds really get on well once they put the trail runners on and we start to jog a bit, because they're used to the different terrains in front of them and, like, adapting to it. So just easy time out on the trails, definitely pausing and enjoying it. And look, that's what it's about, you know.
Yeah, well, it's not to be going out in your Adidas runners and stuff. It's, you know, like, it's, I do see people going up in their Toms and their this and that, and I'm like, you are waiting to break an ankle or something. So just what I would advise, although there is walks around there, like Glendalough is a great place to go, and up the waterfall. Footwear is one of the most important things you can carry, as well as what you're saying. If you're just on a hike, having appropriate gear if anything does happen, particularly if you're inexperienced, is one thing. You know, like you have to think light as well if you're getting involved in this. You don't have to go and buy everything, but there's little first aid kits, and in them you'll have foil blankets. A foil blanket could save someone's life, whether it's yours or if you happen to be on a trail and someone else is under a little bit of pressure, because help can take a little bit of time, particularly if you give the terrain and the location that you're in. So there are other elements, I suppose, for people to think about. Don't be the one in shorts and flip-flops going up the waterfall in Glendalough. You know, think about it appropriately when you're getting involved in these kind of walks and hikes. And I think these investments, although they're small, they will last you a long time. It's not like carbon runners. You only get 200 kilometers out of them and then that's it. You have to change them up because you can't run that 2% faster. It's I've found with any good hiking gear, it tends to last years.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have the first aid kit in your pack, and like hopefully you never need to use it. That's it. Yeah, just have the bits. And like excuse me, I carry a lot of kit for the She Summits runs, and you just get used to it. You know, it started, geez, my bag is heavy, huffing and puffing. But like, look, it's grand. You have all your stuff, you head out there and you're prepared. And another thing, I think another bit of kit that is really great are the running poles. I always bring them on She Summits runs, and I use them on both Limone and Seven Sisters. They're great. They're great to have, like, for ascending and descending. They can be really good. And for some flat, you know, if people have kind of balance issues and that, it's really great to have the 4 points on the ground: your leg, your feet, and the points of the poles. Definitely recommend poles.
Is there a technique to using poles?
Yeah, you need to practice, but you'll get used to it. You know, it takes a couple runs, and you know, there's some trails that you think, oh no, these are actually a bit of a faff, like they're annoying me a bit, so maybe you don't need them for them. But when you need them, you will be very happy that you have them. And it just takes time. It takes time to see, for you to get used to the best way to use them for you. And of course, Girls on Hills does like running with poles, online courses, other people do. But really, I think you just use them yourself. Everyone's body's different. Everyone moves different. And, you know, we all protect ourselves in different ways. So it's just practice. It's just practice. And you won't even know you're doing it. You know, you'll be hiking along and you put them under, eat a bit of food, take them out, keep going. They're great. They're great. So definitely, yeah, recommend them.
If I went walking with Sean and I had them poles, I'd bait him over the head with it.
Yeah.
Well, help me get a PB running away. Yeah, I remember hearing about them before, right, doing the eco trail, and then I heard you need a bit of practice beforehand, and I was thankful it said that because I was reading about this the night before doing the eco trail, so I wasn't going to be able to get to in time for that race anyway.
No, yeah.
So what's the next big event?
For myself,
yes.
I guess the next thing that I plan to do is the tea round in the lakes. So I'm planning to do that in June with a very good friend of mine, Gail Nicholson. And yeah, we're going to head off. It's about 50K, 3,000 meters around some peaks in the Lake District. So that's exciting. It's a challenge. It's not a race. So we'll head out when it suits us, and we'll do the route and hopefully finish happily and have a great day out. So that's the next thing. And then Limone and Seven Sisters again, and whatever happens in between.
You know, someone's a trail runner and they just rattle off like, it's just 50K and through the peaks. And it's like, there's definitely someone listening going, what do you mean just 50K?
No, it's not. No, yeah, 5K can be hard. 1K can be hard. Absolutely. Look, I'm sure they'll be laughing and crying along the way. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I look forward to training for it. Sarah McCormack, Missing Link Coaching, is my coach, and she's been my coach for a few years now. And she's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to the training she gives me to prepare me for the round. And I'm looking forward to it because I love being on the open mountain, and that's what that round is. So, and it's a nice distance. It's not too crazy long. It's just enough for me. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting stuck into that training once this dose goes away.
Brilliant. And if there's any women listening that are in the Dublin, Wicklow, Meath area, She Summits, what are the upcoming events for them if they're interested in getting into the sport?
Yeah, just check out shesummits.net. We have absolute beginner and beginner runs happening regularly in the Dublin and Wicklow Mountains. So absolutely come out with us. And on the runs as well, you're going to meet other women that are interested in the same things. And we're always talking about different races that are coming up. And we often do them as groups as well. So yeah, just come along and try it out. Absolutely.
I'm a little bit jealous, so I can't go. But it sounds absolutely amazing, I have to say, and I'll be recommended to a few friends separately because, to be honest, through the podcast, I'm probably like others, it's the first I've heard of this group, and it's absolutely amazing what you're doing. I really, really hope so many more people get involved because it's absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely amazing, and it's a great opportunity for people in the area.
Thank you. Thanks. And another thing that has kind of happened in the past year that I should mention is, as part of our Summit Supports program, Maggie Lawler and Sarah Flynn are helping me coordinate the Capure Trail Runners. So they're a trail running group in Capure Direct Provision Center. And so we just started there in November, and that group is going from strength to strength. We have 3 runners from that group taking part in the Ard O'Neill Pursuit tonight.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that's another kind of side of it, is another side of She Summits is trying to provide opportunities to people from different backgrounds. Some people are asylum seekers, maybe they've had other people might have had different health issues, whatever, but people that normally couldn't access the sport, we're just trying to break down the barriers to access and help them experience what we get to experience.
But that's what sport is all about, isn't it? And I suppose that's why we do this podcast, is to keep raising awareness about sport and how easy it can be to get involved and how difficult it can be for some people to get involved. And that's why we always try and break it back down to how do we start and how do we do this? But that's absolutely brilliant. I'm delighted to hear it's going so well. But it's been absolutely brilliant to speak to you on this one. I've gained a lot. I can't wait to see Sean take on this race. I can tell.
That's not what I said.
You're going to have to put on a special training day for Sean's dancing and his mountain running. But Alicia, it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. We've got so much, and we really, really hope to see more women out training with you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks to you both.
Thanks, me, Alicia. That is it from Alicia, myself, and Eric for this week's episode of the Any Given Monday podcast. Take care.